Morning, Cat. Good morning, Al.
What's a happy cat? A happy cat is a guy who knows all the answers, and I'll tell you why. He's a highfalutin. Get happy, happy cat. What's a doghouse? A doghouse is a thing. A big spoon fiddle that you slap with a swing. If my phrases seems amazing and you hear it, you get happy. Get happy with Happy's Dictionary.
Well, dang, yeah. Well, if this ain't a solid center. What do you know, Pop? Give me some skin. Nella. Now lay your record, Jack. Say this cat ain't hep to the job. Stop beating up your chops to it. No, I ain't got a brain down. That's the wrong riff, Jack. Say, what the devil you two fools talking about?
We're talking jive. He says he's glad to see you and he wants to shake your hand.
Solid.
Righteous.
Crazy.
Calloway singing the song that he actually made a classic. It ain't necessarily so. One of Tristan's great. Cabaret.
It ain't necessarily so. It ain't necessarily so. The things that the preacher is liable to teach you, it ain't necessarily so. Little baby with small but oh my. Little baby with small but oh my. He fought big old lions who lay down and died. Little baby with small but oh my. What is? I got to do ya. Oh, Jonah, he lived in a whale. Oh, Jonah,
Do you know that Betty Boop was an African American?
Original.
Originally.
Yes. Yeah, I knew that.
Mm-hmm. And some knows his stuff. That's the good. All right.
Yes, I have enjoyed this whole thing. And if I had to, I'd do it all over again. It's been so beautiful, so wonderful, and so lovely. And I hope you like it.
Like a comet blazing across the evening sky, gone too soon. Like a rainbow fading in the twinkling of an eye, gone too soon. Shiny and sparkling and splendidly bright in one day, gone one night. Like the loss of sunlight on a cloudy afternoon, gone too soon.
Those are sisters.
Like a castle
It's all of us.
built upon a sandy beach, gone too soon. Like a perfect flower that is just beyond your reach, gone too soon. Born to amuse, to inspire, to delight in one day, gone one night. Like a
welcome viewing community and community here in the store with us today for a beautiful episode of Behind the Bookstore with the beautiful Mrs. Cecelia Calloway. Not only is she a storyteller, a vocalist, an author, but she is the daughter of legendary band leader Calloway that had a career that spanned over 65 years. He was a regular at the Cotton Club. He really brought notoriety and his own swag to the swing era, and so we are so thrilled that she is now a part of the local Middletown community and has agreed to come here today to not just share some of her stories and reflections, her words to the wise, but also things to really help us to learn her artistry and where it all come from, which is the legendary Calloway. Welcome, Miss Cece.
Well, thank you. Thank
Yes,
you very
welcome.
much.
Welcome. And we all wore a splash of red because that's your favorite
Yes,
color.
that is.
Yes, that must be. So anything you want to share with us that kind of connects this clip that you opted to have us start off today's Behind the Bookstore with before we dive into some questions?
Where shall I begin, Alfie? No. I am so happy and honored really to be here. I am new to Middletown, and my son and my family and grandchildren, whatever, they moved up here, and I'm blessed because I'm living on their property and everything. And I would be trying to go around, and I said, well, now, what goes
What's
on?
there to do?
I know what's happening here, you know. And so I'm just really very, very happy to be here and to begin to know people, to know what this Middletown is all about. And interestingly enough, when I grew up in Westchester, born in Long Island, grew up in Westchester, and I had the opportunity to work with my dad when I was 9, and we made a duet together, a record together, called Little Child, and which is on the website. Very cool. But we used to work up in the Catskills, in the bush. I mean, there was everything up there: the Concord, the Browns, Grossinger's, and I mean. So we went up there. So when I realized that Middletown is like, I said, you know what? I must have passed this exit 1,000 times. Who would have thought? You know that here I am. So my dad and that whole era, I was blessed to be within it. And it struck such a wonderful chord within me to later on to really get into it and to learn all and to appreciate all of the wonderful things that had happened in my life. That of course when I was a child I did not really realize it, but now as life has progressed I have realized it and have made a determination or a goal of mine to go back into it and really see what it was all about. And it's absolutely positively fascinating. And realizing that many of the people that I had the opportunity to be around, they would come out to our home in White Plains, and they worked hard and they partied hard. And they would come out to the house and they would rehearse sometimes out there, or they would just, you know, let the hair down and I was really very fortunate. And then I as time went on, I realized, you know, oh, these are celebrities, these are this, that, and the other. And my mother worked very hard in keeping us, very well, just balanced. My mother, she was a Southern lady. She came from New Orleans, and
yes, decorum. Everything had their place.
Oh, please. My mother was no joke. But anyway, because my dad didn't have any sons. He had all girls. And the irony of it is that we all had boys.
All the girls have all boys.
And so the daughters that came from our children. So, but they would, remember it was the time that I really realized that they're people, just like, doctors, lawyers, they're people, and they go, just like doctors go to work, they go to work. And it was a revelation. Now, like with my dad spent much time on the road. But he and my mom had it hooked up, and I know when I was a little one, I used to say, and he'd call, and he'd be able to run down everything if I was in brownies or whatever I was doing, and da-da-da. I said, how does he know? But they worked it out. So, but the knowledge that I have learned in reference to humanity and in reference to, they were humanitarians, which many times that's not seen. They were really humanitarians, and they did things in that era when they talk about having one another's back. They had one another's back. It was like, it was family. And they went through their changes like families do, but they really were family. They had the rent parties when somebody was having a problem paying rent, and this kind of thing. And it was just, it is so missed in our society now that that's, again, one of my goals is to try to instill that in our youth and just in people, that hey, come on now, let's. And then when it came to my attention, how young they were. I mean, like Lena Horne was like 14, 15 years old. Billie Holiday. I mean, but when they were, they could perform at the Cotton Club, but they couldn't eat there. They couldn't come through the front. All that was real. Right. And but they protected one another. And my dad was like 17 years old. Hello now, think about it, 17 years old. And he's in the position where he's taking over the Cotton Club for Duke Ellington with a 15, 16 piece orchestra. And he's saying, really? And then you look around and you see what's going on now. And our children need to know this. Yes. They need to know this. And one of the many gifts that my dad had was he was a taskmaster. And if you look at the time period, okay, all of them were around the same age, some a little older. He took them and he instilled self-esteem within them. Okay, you did not come to, he would turn over in his urn if he were to see, you didn't come to rehearsal with jeans on. You came to rehearsal with a suit on. Okay, and don't be late, because you were fine. But he taught them how to dress, how to make sure that you dealt with time, how to take care of your family, because he saw to it that they were paid. And when you think about this, and you think about we've all been 17 years old, and you say, really? 17. And that these are the things that I want to pass forward. And the only way I found there was to do that is to talk about it. And the only way to kind of talk about it is try to get, not try, I don't like that word try, is to get people's attention.
And we're hoping that this platform is one humble stone's throw away to do that. And so by way of this space where we have supreme reverence and honors for elders, one of our mantras is community is a verb, right? And so it's about what you do. And in the art of storytelling, which is a huge cultural component, that's how a lot of our histories are passed down. It's so important for young people to not just sit with elders, but to really be present and to get those pearls of wisdom. So you're helping us not only fulfill that mission as a space, but also selfishly, you're pouring into my cup about some elder wisdom. And it makes me think about the first time I met you, and you came bearing many gifts along with your presence of this beautiful book, The Pride and the Journey. And I think you touched on it briefly when you said one of the lessons your dad gave you in general around self-esteem. And one of the quotes in this book that I love is that you can't have self-esteem without having race esteem. And when we talk about generationally, what we see happening or the lack thereof with young people being connected to their ancestry, can you speak a little bit about why that quote resonates so much with you?
Because we seem to be the only culture that does not give respect to where we come from, to what our ancestors did. You know, you would not be here if they had not, and they succeeded. It was not easy, just like it's not easy today, but you have to believe in yourself. And that's not something that you can get on the corner. And it's not something that is given to our youth or given to any of us, you know, in schools or you know, our society is not geared that way. So that means that we have to be the warriors that go out here and have the tenacity, because it's not easy trying to communicate to some of our folks. Come on.
You better tell them straight.
You know, and but I went all the way back to 1815 to see where the Calloway name came from, and it was on the Calloway plantation in Virginia. So there's Cabell 1, Cabell 2, and my dad was Cabell 3. Now, the music, this is how things happen. The music of that time, well, my Cabell 1, my great-grandfather, he, at that time, he just had this thing with music within him, and they were able to get a relationship going with the child that was born on the plantation, okay, where they would kind of exchange, and they would singing, you know, all of that's real. But, you know, and then, interestingly enough, when you know, when my dad, where we got Cabell from, Cabell Calloway, because they're all named Cabell, is that they had the owner and his wife had a child, and the child was born the same time that my grandfather was born, okay? And what they did was they took the maiden name of the mother, okay, and then they, you know, attached Calloway to it, because I mean, you know, that's the way that it was, and it has just perpetuated, and it's always been this thing with music. There are so many musicians within the Calloway family that is, you know, unbelievable. But so and the journey of American music in comparison to the time frame is something else that I'm working on, that to correlate it with the history, you know, from the classical to Joplin to, you know, to bringing it all the way up, and then, you know, it's a fascinating journey, and I'm working on correlating that, and that has something to do with this book here that I put together, and I'm doing it as a audio, and have the music complementing what I'm saying when I'm reading the book. It's very cool, you know. It really is. I mean, because you can really get into it, and you say, man, you know, this is really some journey here. And you know what they would do and what they wouldn't do and what they had to do to get over.
Yeah.
You know, and
what you're making me think of is this new blended word. So we call ourselves here a bookseum, right? Because we blend a bookstore and a museum, trademark loading, right? When I think about artivism, right? Taking artists who use their artistry as a form of activism, what you're describing in the evolution of music is that very essence. And even when I think about one of your dad's most famous taglines, and I'm probably not going to do it justice, and I probably even shouldn't be the one to say it, quite frankly, but hidey, 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 hi, right? That call and response is something very cultural that has ancestral African roots, right? Call and response is the way to not only engage the audience, but to relay and transfer information. And so there's a lot of subtleties to what your dad did, and we're so honored that we have you here to speak to that. And so really just an opportunity to shine light on young people who love music today and may not even know that their artists are sampling vibes and going back in time and looking at Calloway for his style of dress, for his showmanship, for the way that he prepared as a performer. And he's definitely one of the GOATs of the Harlem Renaissance era. So important fact to know, Calloway as the inspiration. I mean, you even saw in the clip from Janet Jackson to the Blues Brothers movie to Heavy D. He was all over the genres, making a huge fingerprint.
yes, and it needs to be. See, they didn't know what to do with my dad. Okay, no, really, they didn't. When you look at a lot of the documentaries and so on and so forth, they'll talk about Duke Ellington today.
Yes.
And I'm not being, I'm just saying. And then they'll go on
And jump over.
they just really didn't know what to do with him, you know. And he did it all. He wrote music, but see, he started off as a drummer, believe it or not. And then he tried to play the trumpet, and everybody told him, look, baby,
That's not your thing.
that's not it. And but he was the music. That was his thing. He just emoted that. I mean, home was one thing, but when he hit that stage, it was a whole nother world. And I remember when, like I said, I made a recording with him when I was 9. And we were on the road and did the Catskills and all that kind of stuff. I did the Ed Sullivan Show and yada yada, but hated it.
Really?
There wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to ride my bicycle and be with my dogs.
You wanted to be 9.
Yeah. And I did that for a couple of years, and and then finally they said, look, this child really does not want to do this, so we're not going to force her to do it. So, but as, of course, life went on, and that's a whole nother story. But I decided that I wanted to work with him again. My sister spent 20 some odd years working with my dad, and then she was going off to do her own thing and so on and so forth. So the opportunity was there. And what an opportunity. I mean, you could not get a better teacher. But he said, are you sure this is what you want to do? Oh, sure, Dad, this is what I want to do, of course. He said, no. Are you sure this is what you want to do?
Yeah.
I said, yes, this is what I want to do. Because it doesn't make any difference that I was his daughter. Okay? I mean, he was, don't be late. If you're late, he will find you. If we were going to the Catskills and we were driving from White Plains, if he said that we were leaving at 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock, he is pulling out of the driveway. If you're not there, he will leave you.
Daughter or not.
Hey, didn't matter. But that's what he had to do, and that's what he did with all these musicians. And saw to it that, look, no, you gotta send this money home to your family, this, that, and the other. And it was just incredible. And that was the bond. And that's what's so missing today. There is not that bond as far as humanity is concerned. There is some music out here, but they're not dealing with music. They're just not. And I'm not saying this, to be, but it just isn't. And it grieves me. But we've got a younger generation that's coming up that is super talented. I mean, I'm not a big one with who's got the voice and the what is it?
Like
Sound.
Got Talent.
Yeah, but they have some children on there that are just incredible. And we just have to expose. We have to expose our youth to why they're here. Everybody has a purpose. And the creator, whoever you believe in, I mean, that's what you were created to do. Your purpose, you were created to stand on the corner, waiting for the liquor store to open. Sorry, that's not what you're here for.
And that's why another undertone of our space is we don't need February to celebrate Black History, right? Because the goal here in our programming and our events and our daily vibe is to do exactly what you're speaking to. You can come in here any day that we're open, Thursday to Saturday, and get the culture, right? See an heirloom that inspires a conversation or sparks nostalgia. And so again, that's another small way that our small hub is looking to do what you're so passionate about, which is to keep the history and the ancestral component alive.
Yes.
And so we're hopeful about doing that. I did want to ask you one question that I didn't share with you, so you can give me the elder slap across the table. Do you remember your visit going to a bookstore as a child or to the library? Do you have any memories of, or the first book you got that you loved as a child?
Well, now we're going into another. I grew up in Westchester County,
Yes.
in White Plains, the city of White Plains, town of Greenberg, okay? And back in the 50s, that latter part of the 50s, our school district was on Rockefeller's estate. So we had to go. And they weren't crazy about having us there in the area, to say the least. I mean, they really expected us to be swinging in the trees, eating bananas, singing hidey, hidey, ho. You understand what I'm saying? But it was what it was. So I'm saying that to say I was the only one within the school that had a hue. Okay. Now, my sisters, as you saw here, they had red hair and freckles and were very fair. Okay? So there was not any kind of, definitely nothing in reference to our culture in school. I mean, I like detective stories. I think I must have, because my mother saw to it that we read, and she did the best that she could do as far as exposing us to different things. But I really can't tell you the name of the first book. I can't do it.
Absolutely, that's fair.
I mean, I could.
But what I can garner from what you're saying, that is something we also subscribe to here, that my mother passed down, is that you really don't even send your children to school to be educated. You really send them to be socialized, right? Mm-hmm. And so what you gathered from your parents' upbringing was really the huge self-esteem and race esteem. And so school was school, and it was school in that era. Mm-hmm. But thankfully, your parents didn't rely on the system for you to build your sense of self and your connection to your race esteem.
Absolutely, absolutely. And see, my mother and father came from two different worlds. And them coming together was God's will, because they really did come. My mother was highly educated. She went to Howard University. She was a social worker. She worked for Thurgood Marshall. She was in the mix.
Scholar, yeah.
Okay. And my dad was a musician and a performer. And so she was my mother was very strict. Well, she had to take care of us when daddy wasn't home, and so on and so forth. And and we were kids, so
Yes. Well, opposites attract, they say. So you have both ends of the spectrum in your DNA. You have the scholarly side and the highly artistic and legendary side. Very cool.
Yeah, it was very cool, very interesting, to say the least. But I'm not knocking it, okay? I'm grateful. I wasn't always grateful to be, and I say, one thing for sure, I will be honest, okay? Now, there was some stuff that was not cool, okay? And, me being kids, us being kids, did some things that was not cool. But we got through it, and the beauty that I have learned is, yes, you're going to have trials and tribulations. Yes, you are going to be confused. Yes, none of this makes any sense to me. Yes, you are going to rebel. Okay, the key is, what are you learning from this? And see, we're not geared that way. We're not, we're gonna wallow in it, or we're gonna
Fight through it.
excuse me, but what, what? So, and like I know when I deal with kids, I have children, excuse me. I have an organization that I'm working on called the Mini Club, which is for young girls that are at risk. And your mama has a good idea. With the Golden Girls, we got to do it.
Yes, shout out to the Golden Girls.
We got the Golden
Middletown edition.
No, but it's not just the Golden Girls.
Yes.
It's the Golden Girls with the hue.
Oh, okay, yes. Emphasize that.
Oh, absolutely.
There's the hueless and the hue.
And she says that should be part of the main. She says it's already formed. All we have to do is. So.
And of course, you take Mini Club from Minnie and the Moocher. Minnie
Right.
the Moocher, which was your dad.
Now, if you look at the lyrics to Minnie the Moocher, it is a modeling song. Okay, Minnie was dealing with Smokey Joe. And Smokey Joe took her down to Chinatown to, get some drugs, man. I mean, it's as simple as that. That song is, why? Because it was a song that began to include the audience, and it was a fluke. He forgot the lyrics, and he came up with the riff, and then he drew the people in. Well, one of the lessons that my dad taught me was, you are here for your audience. If you don't captivate your audience, if you don't get your audience, then you have not done your job. He said, I don't care if the roof falls down, okay? You gotta keep going, okay? And you better be in key. And he wasn't cool, he was serious. I remember I had my first standing ovation. I was covering The Way We Were. That's it. And my dad went right into my next song. I said, damn, well,
Can I linger in the moment?
Can I get a little second? But it was a lesson. It was a lesson to not get, don't get caught out there, because it can take you out. Being on that stage is no joke if you're taking it seriously. A lot of folks are not taking it seriously nowadays. That's why it's in shambles. It's in. Sorry, that's the way I feel about it. It's. I mean, some of the shows I won't. No.
No, we won't.
I
We
know
won't
we
give
won't
them
go.
airtime.
I did not watch the Grammys. I don't. I mean, it's just a travesty.
Yeah.
And people say, well, you know, you gotta keep your support. I said, I didn't say I didn't support it. I'm glad that it's still in existence. I'm just not gonna be a part of it because there is no music here. You know, there isn't. I'm sorry. All they do it. Well, I won't go into. I can go on that subject, but I believe just as they believed within that time, because that was a tough time. They're coming out of slavery. They're coming out of, you know, all of this. They're not being told really what's going on. Okay, just so you're free now, and you know what, and not being told the truth. Well, we never were really told the truth. We had to figure that out for ourselves. We still figuring it out, and but they had that tenacity.
Yeah.
They you know, we kept on going, and that's what I instilled in these kids, these children. Keep going. You don't have to get off the path. You don't have to. We do that because we allow ourselves to be drawn. We allow ourselves to be drawn because we don't have self-respect.
And a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of young people, not myself included, that if you said your dad's name, they wouldn't know him, which is a travesty, right? Considering, especially when you're talking about blazing the trail or even following the path, it makes me think of this beautiful map, which your dad is on, and it literally was the nightclub map of Harlem. And for that particular region, I mean, you can't see it from here, but we'll make sure we zoom in at a later date. They had your dad under the Cotton Club, and it said Calloway's band. Like, he was the feature for that experience on this map of Harlem. And yet, if you talk to a lot of young people today, it's almost like he's a hidden treasure. Like, if you know him, you might know him, but if you've seen the Blues Brothers, maybe you think you know him. And it makes me think about the importance of not only unearthing the part of history that gets ignored and neglected, but also keeping the memory of goats who were trailblazers alive. And so do you want to tell us a little bit about the history of this map?
Yes, that map was done by E. Sims Campbell. Now, E. Sims Campbell and my dad were friends, really, really good friends. In fact, he's the one that kind of talked my dad into moving us out to Westchester because we lived in Long Island. And he was a cartoonist and an artist. And he created the essay for Esquire. And he was a wonderful, I mean, he was a trailblazer. And I mean, I can go on, I could have a whole dissertation just about him. And so he made this map for my dad, okay? And everybody, and everything that was going on at that time. I mean, they were buddies. They were drinking buddies. They were, you know, I mean, you know, hey, look, like I said, they worked hard and they partied hard. Yeah, I mean, you know, so that's a whole nother story. But it's, you know, hey, just get them home.
And so a large part of this map is really about preserving African American history and heritage. Where outside of like the prints you have here might someone see this map? Like, is it up anywhere prominent currently in Harlem?
Not in Harlem. You know where it is now? Where it got bought, got purchased?
Where?
It's in the Beinecke Library at Yale. Okay? And I've done some, you know, some talking there as well, and which is cool. I mean, we need to, you know, now they're redoing that hotel down there next to the Apollo. What is it, the Marriott?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you know, and they have my dad in there, and so on and so forth. But you know, like I said, my dad has been. They don't really know what to do with it. I'm working on doing a film. I'm working on doing a documentary. But the film that I want to do, we're going to start from 1850.
Take all the way
Okay,
back.
and we're gonna go on that journey, and the I've been working on that. All these things take time, and see, I'm tired of all this time now. Come on, it's time for us to bring some things to fruition.
Yes.
And then I lost a whole year last year because I was sick and fell, and, all that kind of stuff. But that's okay. I'm here now.
You're still here.
So.
And so we will look forward to not only that documentary, but keeping ourselves apprised. It would be wonderful in my own imaginative world if that map could make its way back to Harlem.
Yes.
Because there's also a history of institutions taking things that are black and brown and beautiful and buying them the highest bidding, and then holding them, and then somehow that history is just erased. So maybe that map can make its way back to Harlem and live somewhere where the map is actually the destination to preserve.
Absolutely. Now, the map was done by Easton's Campbell, and his daughter was married to Gordon Parks. Now, up in that area where we grew up, they had when we were beginning to migrate up there, and they gave us a little area where we could go. They had Parkway Gardens and Parkway Homes. Now up there, you had Gordon Parks lived up there. Eddie Hayward lived up there. Slappy White lived up there. Jackie Mom's Mailer lived up there. Roy Campanella lived up there. There was a lot of very cool people. This is before we had the Ruby D, and then they lived in New Rochelle. But it's so they would again, like I said, they had this tight knit family, and I was cool. I mean, I lucked out because all of these people they would come together and they'd have a good time, and inside knowledge. Lena Horne used to drink her martinis out of mason jars. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying this is when they could be who they were when they weren't.
Yes.
And you learn how to do that when I go on stage. When you go on stage, which bothers me so much to see what these kids are doing when they go on stage now. It's a travesty. It really is. They have no self-respect. I mean, come on. You out there do it.
Well, what I'll say, how about this? How about we do this? In my humble opinion, when we talk about artistry and musicians, in your dad's era, the preponderance lied with high quality, integrity, showmanship, right?
Yes.
And so there was only one Calloway, but the quality and decorum that the artists of that era had, you had more in his realm than what we're seeing today.
Nice.
Now today, you have more of, in your opinion, the artists that have removed themselves from a little bit of integrity and decorum and are doing more of the trends and the fads rather than using music as a catalyst and conduit for activism, to share messages of empowerment. And so I want to give some respect to the Rhapsodies, the Lauryn Hills, the Jill Scotties.
Oh, absolutely.
But they are not the preponderance now. We've got some of the latter.
Yeah, right. No,
Okay.
I totally agree with you. I mean, if you come to my house, I've got all kinds of. I'm still a CD person. So I know.
It's okay. We have a VHS player.
Yeah,
so
so
CDs
my kids, my grandchildren say, CD.
Where do you buy those
even
from?
a DVD. What? I said, look, just hook it up, okay? That's all I'm asking. Just hook it up.
And shout out to Miss Cece because she did come with her very own DVD player. We have a lot of heirlooms and antiques here, but that one we didn't have. So thank you for pulling up with your DVD player.
No, it's no problem.
Yes. And so I want to hit you with a rapid fire because we are nearing the hour mark. I want to honor your dad being a man of punctuality. And we did say 6 and we started at a humble 6:27. And I know you're not him and you have your own rules, but I would like to honor and respect that it is later in the hour. But we end every Behind the Bookstore with 10 questions. Okay. Before I hit those 10, anything else you want to share with us about a word to the wise, a piece of Black history that you love, a reflection to share?
The piece of Black history that I love is what we're doing now. What we're doing right now. And what we put out into our communities right now and into our children. That's the piece of Black history. It ain't a month.
Hello.
You know,
It's a mindset, right?
You know, that's American history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so did I answer your question?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have the burden for this experience. All right, so here we go. You ready for 10? And you have elder carte blanche. So if I ask something and you're like, girl, move on, we moving on. Okay, she gave me the look. Here we go. So what, and just to give our viewers who might be watching for the first time, this was inspired, my grandmother was a huge lover of Gil Noble and Like It Is. So I cannot even touch the hem of his cloth, but a little bit of where the inspiration came for these questions was from that experience as a child, watching him crisscross applesauce in front of that huge TV. And then also James Lipton's Inside the Actor's Studio, where he ended with the same 10 questions. This first question is from him. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt? So you're a storyteller, a vocalist, an author, but if you had to step outside that realm, what profession other than the one you're in would you like to attempt?
Well, included in that is my dealing with children. And
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's already
in there.
Okay, I would deal with animals.
Okay.
Animals that are mistreated, animals. I'm an animal lover. I dogs, cats, birds. Only thing I don't like are reptiles.
Huh. All right. Well, we have
snakes and all that. No.
We're not messing with that. Well, we have a 10-month-old bulldog named Basquiat who's in desperate need of some training. But we'll make that the behind the bookstore conversation.
Okay.
All right. Yes. All right. Yes, he's the owner. All right. So, would you rather read a book, listen to a book, write a book, or be read to?
Live the book.
Oh, that's not even an option. You see, she'd rather live the book. All right, that's not an option. We're gonna add that for future guests.
Okay, so I'll answer your question.
No. Live a book. You don't have to be in the box. I love it. Live a book. Live a book. Well, you're living one for sure. All right, here we go. Would you rather go back and meet your great-great-grandparents? I know that you have a piece of literature that speaks to your knowings of your lineage, or go forward in time and meet your great-great-grandchildren? I know you said you have a great-grandchild, but now if that great-grandchild was a grandmother, would you like to meet them or go back in time?
I figure I'm here right now, and I'm working on getting to know
Next generation.
the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, I'll go forward.
You'll go forward?
Yeah, I'll go forward.
Very cool.
Yeah.
No right or wrong, it's whatever you
No,
think.
I'll go forward and continue to, you know, go on that journey. You know, that's cool.
And meet the future generations.
Yes.
All right. Do you have a favorite song lyric?
Oh wow, that's a toughie. I guess I have two,
Okay.
and they are basically songs that I've written.
I love it.
One is called I Do Believe, and the other is called All That Glitters Is Not Gold.
All that glitters is not gold, and I do believe. All right. We know we have to hear those before you go. And you don't have to sing them for us because we're not ready. We're not ready. But certainly we would love to hear the song on whatever platform you have it to share. What is your earliest memory of learning Black history in schools? I know you described growing up in Westchester and being one of the very few melanated folk there, but do you remember learning, even if it was one Harriet Tubman story or a one picture across a sliding screen of Martin Luther King?
I would say my first presentation of Black history was Martin Luther King. Got zilch in school.
Zilch.
I did, yeah. And my mother, she instilled in us the best that she could, you know. But to say anything that was structured,
Yes.
that way, was the march on, you know, Selma and all of that, and then it got really stupid, you know, when they killed Kennedy. I mean, that, I remember that. I remember seeing that on television. I remember experiencing that and saying, really? Why?
Yeah.
What's going on? You know,
And that's why you chose Live a Book, because you lived through a lot of those iconic, historic, and sometimes tragic situations.
absolutely.
So, okay. And then when I think about what you describe as your passion and your charge to keep not only your dad's legacy, but history alive, that is very tedious work. Sometimes it's frustrating work. So what does Miss Cece do to rejuvenate herself? Other than get beautiful red manicures? Yes.
I go to the senior center and we do exercises.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Shout out to Mulberry Senior Center right here in Middletown. They're getting a whole nother boost of life by way of these new wave of elders coming from all over. Melanated elders are coming through and they liven up the joint.
I'm saying to rejuvenate myself, I'm blessed to be around my children, my grandchildren, some of my children, some are out in Seattle, and some of my grandchildren are out there too. But we have a really close rapport. It's really cool. They're up at the big house. I have my house. Beautiful. But you know, they come, especially my grandchildren. They come over and they're 23. They're triplets. Just parties. And that will always, you know, when I hear them, because anybody says they don't have their days, they're telling you a tale. You know, just like anybody tell you they don't have a story, they're telling you a tale. You know, so I have my days, and then, you know, especially my granddaughter. That's my little princess. And
So
she-
being together apart, would you like, you have your distance from your grands, but they're right there in proximity.
Yes, if I need anything or they pick up a vibe, there is a very strong connection. There's a vibe. You know, the boys are different, but they come around. But one of them's in the Air Force, and the other one is up. And I'm seeing them. They've graduated from college. I'm seeing them just blossom and going through, and I'm learning a lot about what's going on out here for our children.
Yes.
How difficult it is, even with a degree, to find a job. You know, it's like really very hard. And that rejuvenates me, and music.
Yes.
You know, if I put on, listen, you think I was at,
The Cotton Club.
hey, I was jamming.
And so in one word, whether it's for your family or for the community that you are still beautifully serving, what do you hope in one word your legacy is for future generations?
Love.
Love. Love it. What's the last good piece of advice you got from an elder? Because you're just a young 40. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I don't do numbers.
Yes.
I would say the last piece of advice that I got from an elder was to continue to learn and to love yourself.
Continue to learn and love yourself. That's beautiful. Who do you consider to be a literary GOAT?
James Baldwin.
Uh-oh. Shout out to James Baldwin right up here. Yes, beautiful. Finish this sentence. There'll come a time when you have to.
Oh boy, I mean that's wide open. We can go all kinds of directions. What's the question again?
There'll come a time when you have to, and you can finish the sentence with the first thing that comes to mind.
When I have to what?
There'll come a time when you have to.
When I have to really accept the fact that I'm going home. You know, that's something you can't get around. You know, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We just don't know when. So we go around try not to accept it. You know, we be grateful. Thank you for another day. But you know, in the back of your mind is, this is the day. You know,
Yes.
that's
And that's why, again, we're so humbled and honored that you have opted to spend precious time here with Sadie's to record not just these stories, but share insights and tools about things that we should all carry forward. Last question. So, if you were writing your memoir, what might your dedication page say?
I would be dedicating it to learning the ultimate lesson. And the ultimate lesson is that we were all here to do one thing, and that's to love. Love is the answer. It's really very simple.
Yeah.
So I would dedicate it to love.
Well, we're going to dedicate this episode and all the rest of Sadie's remaining days to love. How apropos that Miss Cece's favorite color is red, which is one of the colors to denote love. Mic drop on that ultimate lesson. Humble bow to you bringing your goatness and your history here to Sadie's. It's staying in my heart, in the bricks, and with all those that are here tonight. And again, we are so grateful that you have shared these pearls of wisdom and some insight looks into your legendary dad. So give it up for Miss Cece. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Mighty ho, and all things that speak to love, love, love. The answer forward is love, rooted in race esteem to build your self-esteem to grow your family legacy. We thank you.
Thank you.